this works. So what do you want to talk about?
About puberty blockers. So,
Okay.
like Lupron were used to as chemically castrate sex offenders.
Hmm.
So, even though it was way
Yeah.
high doses, it still it does the same thing to kids.
No, it doesn't. You're having a lot of trouble with your connectivity, but I think I get the point that you're trying to make. Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about a drug used in different contexts, right? So the administration of a puberty blocker happens less frequently than that drug being administered as a chemical castrant. We're talking about like triple the dosage, and the administration happens quite a bit more often. Like drugs have different effects at different levels, right? I mean, like I've brought this up multiple times, but insulin, someone like millions of people need insulin because their pancreas doesn't produce it to help regulate blood sugar. If you take too much insulin, you'll go into cardiac arrest, I believe. Bad stuff happens, let's just say. So, yeah, drugs do different things at different dosages.
Yeah, well, 2013, Lupron was sued and deemed criminal by the U.S. government, and it paid the most high fines at that time.
Hmm. So, you're saying Lupron isn't used anymore?
I'm just saying it was deemed criminal 2013 because they had to pay 874 million, and
Uh-huh.
I don't
Yeah, I mean,
can people.
this does happen with drug companies and malpractice, but the idea that you can write off the entire concept of puberty blockers because of Lupron is a little bit silly.
Well, Lupron is not safe. That's my point.
Okay,
How is
well, there's other forms of puberty blockers. My live says puberty blockers are safe. It doesn't necessarily say Lupron
Yeah,
is safe.
Lupron is a beauty blocker too.
Okay,
So
and they were sued, and is it still being used and administered?
yeah, I guess so.
Let's look
And
that up. Let's see if we can find anything on it.
they had to pay 874 million fine.
Your connection is really bad. I might have to drop you here, but yeah, I think ultimately you're kind of arguing in bad faith. To be honest with you, um, I think you understand the idea that medical dosage makes a determination on what's going to happen, on what sort of medical outcomes they're going to have. So what you're doing is you're saying in one context they use it as a chemical castrant, therefore it's going to castrate children. There's no evidence for that. We've been using puberty blockers for precocious puberty since the late 70s, early 80s. There's a pretty massive amount of medical efficacy for people. I think you're bad faith, and I think that you either don't like trans people or you don't want kids to be able to transition.
I don't want kids to be harmed and medically
They're
castrated.
not harmed. They're not
They're being,
castrated.
well, stopping
You have a
puberty.
you have a mis you have a misunderstanding of medical dosage. If I take an entire bottle of ibuprofen, it's going to cause liver toxicity. If I take one ibuprofen, it's going to have no effect on my liver.
At the end of the day, just because they're giving it in small doses doesn't mean it's safe. In long term, it's going to be
That's
unsafe. And
absolutely what it means.
stopping puberty is not going to let the brain develop properly.
There's no evidence for that.
There's no evidence for puberty blockers being reversible either.
There absolutely is. The
Not
Mayo Clinic
one, there's
says
not
as much.
one long-term study on that. Not one.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. We've been using puberty blockers since the late 70s, early 80s.
But
There's
they
a
didn't,
massive amount of medical efficacy for these drugs.
I'm telling you, there's not one
They went
long-term
through clinical
study.
trials. You're incorrect. You're
Okay, then
incorrect.
show
They
me
went
one
through
long-term
clinical
study.
trials. What do you mean
There's
long-term
none.
study? They went through FDA trials. They went through FDA trials, and they've been used for the past 40 years.
Just because it's approved by the FDA doesn't make it safe. It's not approved in here because it's not safe. I mean, we know that FDA
It
approves
is safe.
stuff in America that is not safe. It's not approved in the rest of the world
Like
because
what?
it's not safe. So FDA
Like
is
what?
not a good
What does the FDA approve that's not safe?
Lupron.
Okay, and didn't they get sued?
Yeah, and they had to pay a lot of things. For example, here in Europe, a lot of things that are approved in America will never be approved here, like food, medicine, because FDA is going to approve anything that's going to make money. So approved by
That's not true.
FDA is not a good argument.
Yeah. So when we talk about when something is safe or not, we're making a determination on its cost benefit analysis. There's a wide enough body of research for puberty blockers to show that their benefits outweigh their risks.
So what benefit? First of all, there's risks to get
What benefit?
cancer. The Let's talk about the risk, and then you can tell me the benefits, maybe. So
Yeah, I can
you
read.
might get
I can read off
cancer.
the effect here. People are saying cancer. I haven't seen any evidence for that. The reason it's probably not listed under the Mayo Clinic, which is like one of the foremost medical institutions in the world, it's probably because it's pretty insignificant. Use of GnRH analogs also might have long-term effects on growth spurts, bone growth, bone density, and fertility. So if we're most concerned about bone density, it just talks about supplementation of calcium and vitamin D supplements. So yeah, I mean, there are people who could have negative outcomes from these drugs, but it isn't a significant enough percentage of the use case to outlaw or remove these drugs.
Well, giving drugs like Lupron and others to perfectly healthy kids is not safe. How can you say that's safe?
Why? I haven't
First of
seen
all,
any
they're
evidence that it
healthy
causes
kids.
any long-term issues.
What?
I haven't seen. So you're kind of just alluding to this idea that they were sued, and like drug companies can be sued for lots of
That's
different reasons.
Yeah, and how can they be credible for like if somebody was sued and had to pay the most fine and being deemed criminal, how can I trust them when they say this is
Okay,
safe?
then let's stop using Lupron. There's other puberty blockers.
Which do the same thing.
So why haven't they been sued? They were
I'm
sued for
sure they've
unfair
been sued too.
pricing.
I'm
Oh my
talking
god.
about
Okay, you are totally bad faith. I'm done talking to you. That's ridiculous. They were sued for unfair pricing. Oh my god.